Hello everyone, and welcome to Sussex Champions, the channel where we unpack power, privilege, and the stories that institutions would really rather you didn't look at too closely. I'm Mark, your host, and today we're diving into a familiar royal saga, but from a slightly different angle. This isn't about choosing sides. It's not about defending Prince Harry, and it's certainly not about lionizing him. What this episode is about is fear, control, and how fragile authority behaves when it feels threatened. Because last week, Prince Harry quietly returned to the UK for nearly 6 days, and what didn't happen during that visit tells us far more than what did. Prince Harry spent the better part of 6 days in the UK last week. His reason for being there was narrow and specific: to testify in his lawsuit against Associated Newspapers, the publisher of the Daily Mail, alongside co-plaintiffs like Liz Hurley. He attended court for 4 days. He skipped Friday, likely because he was already heading back to California. And that was it. No secret meetings, no emotional reconciliations, no surprise royal drop-ins, no whispered lunches, no pub sightings, no clandestine family summits. In royal watcher terms, it was almost aggressively uneventful, and yet the silence itself became the story. While Harry was in London, Prince William was conspicuously not. Reports suggest William made a point of being as far away from London as possible during his brother's visit. Sources framed this as duty, busyness, or emotional overload, but others were less charitable, describing a pattern of avoidance so consistent it borders on strategy. This isn't new. Every time Harry appears in the UK, William disappears. And here's the thing. When someone goes out of their way not to be in the same space as another person, especially when that space is their own city, their own country, their own institution, that's not indifference, that's discomfort. Columnist Tessa Dunlop put words to what many observers have been circling for years. She dismissed the idea of a brotherly meeting as a long shot, pointing to illness within the royal family and the overwhelming pressure on Kensington Palace. The subtext was clear. William has too much on his plate to deal with a brother he considers disloyal. But embedded within Dunlop's column is something sharper, a critique not of Harry's choices, but of William's rigidity. William, she argues, is not a man who bends. He doesn't believe he has to. And increasingly, he behaves as if he's untouchable. Dunlop notes that without the Sussexes stealing his thunder, William could be forgiven for believing his position is unassailable. This is a crucial line, because monarchy relies on perception, not elections, not accountability, not flexibility. And when perception shifts, panic follows. William has ignored convention when it suits him, skipping the Women's World Cup final, refusing established royal safety practices, operating as if rules apply to everyone but him. This isn't confidence. It's insulation, and insulation breeds fragility. The numbers are not on the monarchy's side. In 1983, 86% of Britons supported the institution. By 2023, that number had dropped to 54%, overwhelmingly older voters. Younger generations are disengaged at best, openly hostile at worst. This decline isn't because of Harry. It's because monarchy has failed to evolve, failed to unify, and failed to convince people it still serves a purpose. Harry simply became a symbol, not a solution. Dunlop suggests that reconciliation could transform William into a redemptive figure, a future king capable of forgiveness, unity, and moral authority. But this is where commentary drifts into fantasy, because reconciliation requires humility, and humility requires security. Everything we've seen suggests William doesn't feel secure. Not in his role, not in his popularity, and not in his future reign. This is the part few commentators say out loud. William's resistance doesn't appear rooted in what Harry said, wrote, or did. It appears rooted in competition. When Harry and King Charles met briefly last September, reports suggested William reacted badly. Why? Because for the first time in years, Harry wasn't a ghost. He was a presence that reminded William he is not the only royal with global relevance. Harry doesn't need access to the monarchy to command attention anymore. That's the uncomfortable truth. And once that realization set in, the idea of coexistence became intolerable. What makes this especially ironic is that William positions himself as a global statesman, someone willing to engage with complex geopolitical conflicts, and yet he cannot manage a private relationship with his own brother. That contradiction doesn't go unnoticed. It undermines the image of steady leadership the monarchy desperately needs as public faith continues to erode. Let's be clear. This isn't about whether Harry deserves forgiveness. It's not about whether William is right or wrong emotionally. And it's certainly not about taking Harry's side. This is about power protecting itself. What commentators like Dunlop are really doing is exposing the cracks, critiquing William's fear, rigidity, and short-sightedness without naming them directly. Because the truth is uncomfortable. An heir who cannot tolerate competition, even symbolic competition, is not untouchable. He's exposed. And the monarchy feels that exposure more every year. That's it for today's episode of Sussex Champions. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to follow, rate and share. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into power, perception, and the stories behind the headlines. Until next time, stay curious.